Good evening and welcome to the 8:30 English news from the Sultanate of Oman Television. First, the headlines. His Majesty the Sultan confers Renaissance of Oman Order Second Class on Mohammed bin Al-Said Mustafa Al-Nu'mani, handed over by His Excellency Minister of Diwan of the Royal Court. The Ministry of Housing and Urban Planning issues the controls and conditions to grant residential government land. And the Risk Rating Committee in London approves lifting of Omani seas and ports from the high-risk marine areas. Those are the headlines, and now the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq confers Renaissance of Oman Order Second Class on Mohammed bin Al-Sayyid Mustafa Al-Nu'mani in recognition of his great efforts in his field of work throughout the period he served at the Diwan of the Royal Court. The order was handed over by His Excellency Sayyid Khalid bin Hilal bin Saud Al-Busaidi, Minister of Diwan of the Royal Court. The Ministry of Housing and Urban Planning issued the controls and conditions to grant residential government land. The Ministry of Housing and Urban Planning may grant one residential government land to the applicant in the approved detailed plans. If the applicant is a man, he must have completed 23 years of age and be a breadwinner of a family consisting of a wife and children, or one of them here, or for one of them the parents, or be a breadwinner of himself, providing that he is not less than 40 years old and the little of the land is issued in the name of the two spouses if the man is the breadwinner of the family. If the applicant is a woman, she must have completed 23 years of age and be the sole breadwinner of her family, or married to a non-Omani and residing in the Sultan permanently, or divorced, widowed or abandoned and have no children or support for herself, provided that she is not less than 40 years old. Priority is given to granting residential government land to a family that does not own a house or residential land suitable for construction, and it is not permissible to sell the granted land except after the completion of construction and in accordance with the controls issued by the decision from the Minister of Housing and Urban Planning. In order to grant the family residential government land, it is a condition that no member of the family has previously been granted residential land prior to the implementation of the provisions of the Royal Decree. The residential government land is granted in the applicant's wilaya or in the wilaya in which his permanent place of business is, as the case may be. Some applicants for granting residential government lands may be excluded from the aforementioned controls and conditions in accordance with the rules to be specified by a decision issued by the Minister of Housing and Urban Planning after the approval of the Council of Ministers. The Sultanate, represented by the Minister of Transport, Communications and Information Technology, and in coordination with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Maritime Security Center and the ASIAD Group, managed to lift the Omani seas and ports from the high-risk marine area approved by the Risk Rating Committee of Lloyd's and the marine insurance companies in London. The committee classified the seas and ports located in the Arabian Sea, the Sea of Oman and the Gulf within the high-risk marine area in May 2019 due to a number of accidents that occurred at that time in the region outside the territorial waters of Oman. The Minister of Transport, Communications and Information Technology stated that the Sultan's success in raising Oman's marine areas and ports from the list of high-risk areas will support the increase in the number of ships and international shipping companies to work in Omani ports and increase the volume of investments in the field of maritime transport and ports in the Sultanate, as this success reflects the reality of security stability in all ports of the Sultanate. The Ministry of Transport, Communications and Information Technology announced the opening of the door for investors to present their investment ideas for the management, operation and development of the Khasab and Shinas ports in a period not exceeding 28th of June 2021. The investment opportunities grant many facilities and advantages, including facilitating services in the docking areas, operating shipping lines between the Sultanate and international ports, and permitting the establishment of any activity related to the maintenance, service, and catering of ships and any services related to free markets within the borders of each port. The Ministry of Health registered 37 deaths and 2,006 new cases of COVID-19. It also registers 2,951 recovered cases during the last 3 days. The total number of COVID-19 cases in the Sultanate reached 201,350. The total number of deaths reached 2,120, and the total recovered cases reached 184,647. The ministry indicated that the total number of inpatients during 24 hours reached 84, bringing the total number to 752, among which 275 are in intensive care units. Still to come, our news bulletin. China's discarded stages of a rocket re-entered Earth's atmosphere above the Maldives in the Indian Ocean. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman Television. Clashes erupted between Palestinian protesters and Israeli police outside the old city of Jerusalem last night as tens of thousands of Muslim worshippers prayed at the nearby Al-Aqsa Mosque on Islam's Holy Spirit night of Laylat al-Qadr. Palestinians used through stones, lit fires and tore down police barricades in the streets leading the walled old city gates, as officers on horseback in riot gear used stun grenades and water cannons to repel them. At least 80 people were injured, including minors, and 14 were taken to hospital. Israeli police said at least one officer was hurt. Tensions have mounted in the city throughout the Muslim holy month of Ramadan amid growing anger over the potential eviction of Palestinians from Jerusalem homes on land claimed by Jewish settlers. The novel coronavirus has killed at least 3.29 million people since the outbreak emerged in December 2019. More than 157.6 million cases of coronavirus have been registered. Yesterday, 13,171 new deaths and 775,680 new cases were recorded worldwide. The United States is the worst affected country with 581,516 deaths from 32.7 million cases. After the US, the hardest hit countries are Brazil with 421,316 deaths, Mexico with 218,928, and the United Kingdom with 127,603. Europe overall has 1.1 million deaths, Latin America and the Caribbean 952,377, Asia 375,315, the Middle East 134,325, and Africa 124,153 deaths. The World Health Organization's chief scientist said yesterday that a COVID-19 variant spreading in India is more contagious, and it is feared it could be dodging some vaccine protections, contributing to the country's explosive outbreak. Sumaya Swaminathan warned that the epidemiological features that they see in India today do indicate that it's an extremely rapidly spreading variant. India yesterday, for the first time, registered more than 4,000 COVID-19 deaths in just 24 hours and more than 400,000 new infections. New Delhi has struggled to contain the outbreak, which has overwhelmed its healthcare system, and many experts suspect the official death and cases numbers are in a gross underestimate. Swaminathan, an Indian pediatrician and clinical scientist, said B1617 variant of COVID-19, which was first detected in India last October, was clearly a contributing factor to the catastrophe unfolding in her homeland. The WHO recently listed B1617, which counts several sub-lineages with slightly different mutations and characteristics, as a variant of interest. The U.S. envoy for the Horn of Africa met with the General Abdel Fattah Burhan, head of Sudan's ruling Sovereign Council in Sudan. The latest stop of his tour of the region aimed at resolving the decade-long disputes over Ethiopia's massive dam on the Nile River's main tributary. During his two-day visit, Jeffrey Feltman also held talks with Sudan's Foreign Minister Mariam Al-Mahdi and Irrigation Minister Yasser Abbas. Feltman discussed the ongoing dispute between Ethiopia on one hand and Sudan and Egypt on the other over Addis Abeba's filling of the reservoir on the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam on the Blue Nile. Egypt and Sudan argued that Ethiopia's plan to add 13.5 billion cubic meters of water in 2021 to the dam's reservoir is a threat to them. Cairo and Khartoum have called for the US and UN and European Union to help each reach a legally binding deal. And China's space agency said a core segment of its biggest rocket re-entered Earth's atmosphere above the Maldives in the Indian Ocean, and most of it burned up early today. Chinese officials, seen to a news agency, said the vast majority of items were burned beyond recognition during the re-entry process. Despite that, NASA Administrator Bill Nelson in a statement said it is clear that China is failing to meet responsible standards regarding their space debris. Usually discarded rocket stages re-enter the atmosphere soon after liftoff, normally over water, and don't go into orbit. The Long March 5B rocket carried the main module of the Taihe, or Heavenly Harmony, into orbit on April 29th. The roughly 30-meter long stage will be among the biggest space debris to fall to Earth. This is the Sultan of Oman Television. Before tonight's bulletin, the main points once again. His Majesty the Sultan confers Renaissance of Oman Order Second Class on Mohammed bin Al-Sayyid Mustafa Al-Nu'mani, handed over by His Excellency Minister of Diwan of the Royal Court. The Minister of Housing and Urban Planning issues the controls and conditions to grant residential government lands. And the Risk Rating Committee in London approves lifting of Omani seas and ports from the high-risk marine area. And with that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin from all of us here in the newsroom and the studios. Thanks for watching. Good night.